Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. This is I, Captain Logan. And joining me, as always, is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you always for the lovely introductions. I never thank you for those, but make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Well, I got to do something to bolster your ego.
Oh, yeah. It's basically in the floor. So thanks for any help you can give it.
This guy has no self-esteem at all, so that's what I got him for Christmas. Anyway, welcome once again to the show, everybody. Gonna have a fun one for you, I'm sure, for the next hour plus, however long you guys want to chat up to and including 9 o'clock Central my time. We're going to talk about whatever you guys would like to talk about in geeky news, in pop culture in general. Feel free, as always, to leave questions in the comments. Toggle them at DJ Martinez to make sure that he sees things that you would like us to try to read on air. We'll get to as many of those as possible, obviously prioritizing super chats if you want to make absolutely certain that your question, topic, concern is discussed here on air. We're also the PR department, so I mean, you know, we'll tackle whatever you guys need to talk about. Human resources and everything. You can leave a super chat in any dollar amount, and that makes sure that those things are read. And away we go. Tonight we have a lead-in topic, and this is the question I'd like to pose tonight, based on something from Disney Plus Day last week. Naturally, of course, DJ, things like Disney Plus Day have to happen one day, 24 hours after, less than 24 hours after the last time we broadcast live.
Exactly, man. I was like, what is going on? They just kept dropping things, kept showing posters and teasers, and I was like, well, I don't know. I would have done one that Friday night if you didn't have stuff planned already.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to prioritize the stupid Clifford movie. The blind commentary. Austin really is ruining the channel, isn't he?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That was a real fun time. Did you see any of that? He made a bingo board and everything. It was amazing.
I did not see that. I need to check it out.
And the movie was not terrible, by the way. We didn't hate it.
Yeah. Is it just like a fun kids movie?
It is, and one that felt like it was put in a drawer since 1993, like authentically. It felt like a like a early 90s children's film. And it was fine.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It kind of was.
So not like
I'm not recommending it, but it kind of was.
So better than like the Alvin and the Chipmunks and the Sonics and all the other like animal kids movies.
And classier
CG animal.
than those overall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
A little bit of dog potty humor, but not anything like to the degree that a lot of those things are. But I'm not here to review that or talk about that ever again.
Done that enough. But I do have some pre-writtens that are along with the topic if you wanted me to kind of pop those in.
Yeah, we can get to those in a second. I just wanted to toot my own horn for a minute and say that I inadvertently called Disney Plus Day.
Yeah, you did.
In our show last week, I said, okay, what exactly is Disney Plus Day? Because it sounds like a like DC fandom type thing. Are they going to drop a bunch of news? And everybody was like, no, it's just about getting like Disney Plus on sale and trying to cram that down people's throats. And then the next day there's all this news, and I was like, I knew it. I believed you guys. But it turns out that was in fact what they were doing.
Yeah, they didn't advertise it all. Like I said, I got the email like the day before, and all they said was, get this $1.99 for a month. Like they didn't say things are being dropped. They didn't wanted to like be like pure internet age and just like hope that everything. And they knew it would. Obviously, if they drop a bunch of stuff, it's going to spread all over the internet. They don't even have to advertise anymore.
Yeah, it was a lot like when they announced all that Star Wars news, like a year ago or whenever it was, when Boba, I forget how long ago it was now. COVID has thrown my whole everything where I'm like, I can't remember if we were in lockdown when this happened, but that show that I did with Nick Stevens when they announced Boba Fett et al. And projects that are already being shelved, by the way. Because one of those was that Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron project, which has already been apparently dropped, or at least she's no longer attached to it if that ends up still happening. But I digress. So tonight's lead-in topic is related to some news that we got out of Disney Plus Day, which is that we are, in fact, as was rumored and speculated about for a long time, getting a revival of the 90s X-Men animated cartoon. One of the producers pitched Disney quite a while back just returning back to that show and making a new season and coming back where they left off. And Disney apparently bit on that. They apparently went ahead and gave it the green light. And we had gotten news like maybe a week or two before that something was coming in 2023. Although what I had read was that production on something was starting in 2023, and unless I read my news wrong, this I think was announced to actually be airing then. That like for the next 2 years they'll be working on it, and then we'll get it in sometime in 2023. But there was a lot of speculation I was reading about that either we were going to get a brand new animated series, and a lot of people thought that that was a lot more likely, kind of whetting people's palate for X-Men in the MCU, and you know, something more modern, or that it was in fact what this producer pitched. And he and most of apparently the staff from that show are coming back and indeed making new seasons of that show. And I wanted to talk about that tonight because I'm real on the fence about whether or not I even want to see that. And I wanted to ask the larger question. This will be very GNN-like, DJ. Should we stop bringing back old cartoons? The question is, and I'm talking about revivals of things. Early on, before the show started, I saw a lot of comments where people were talking about reboots of cartoon shows that have been successful, like DuckTales and things, that were worth coming back and doing, or like a couple of iterations of Scooby-Doo have been really good, but like not a straight-up return back to the old, any old continuity, if Scooby-Doo ever really had one of those. But bringing back, bringing back those characters and that world and everything, but modernizing and doing. We all know what reboots are. That's not what I'm primarily wanting to talk about tonight. I want to talk about when is it a good idea to do like Young Justice season 3 and 4 and that sort of thing, because things like that a lot of people have were clamoring for forever. They came out, they dropped, people watched them, and we're not happy, and there aren't a lot of examples of this happening and it actually working out. So we've talked about this a lot on the live action side, decades later sequels, where the same people come back but might be, or some of them, and they might be a little bit out of touch now, where they're not in the same place they were creatively when the thing was, great, or they might be too self-aware now. They might be too aware of how well received a thing was, how beloved it was, drink their own Kool-Aid, that kind of thing. That happened with the X-Files revival, etc., etc. Obviously, the same sort of thing is possible and likely maybe with cartoons. Is it time to quit doing this, or are there some things that, at least for wrap-ups and things, we would like to really see come back? DJ, X-Men is a weird one, and I don't know if you know anything about that show.
No, I was much more into the Spider-Man show as a kid. I saw a little. I think I have one episode on VHS that was like a Wolverine only episode where he goes to the Arctic and fights Sabretooth.
Yes.
So that's the one I had on VHS. So I mean, yeah, I'm not the target audience for that, but I'm part of the target audience, but I'm not specifically a person who watched that show. So I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel about it?
Well, I just asked you what your relationship was with it because of those two shows, if you were going to come back and do a new season, Spider-Man makes more sense than X-Men. Because Spider-Man, of course, ends on sort of a cliffhanger, and there were plans for potentially for another season of that show that Semper was working on before it ended up not happening. And even though it ends on an oblivious and ambiguous cliffhanger that feels like it certainly works as an ending, there are places to maybe go with another season of that show if you wanted to do it, for better or worse. Again, Modern Sensibilities being what they are, I don't know how that comes out and doesn't end up looking like self-parody, even if exactly the same people come back. So I would be trepidatious about that as well. But coming back and starting right where you left off with X-Men, that show has a terrible last season that like most fans don't really care for. It was past its prime. It felt like it ended because it was kind of ready to go. Like they kind of said everything they had to say with it, and it was just spinning its wheels. And it wasn't the same thing at the end as it was at the beginning. So it's not a thing that really makes a lot of sense to me to bring back exactly as it was, and I don't know even what that looks like exactly as it was. Like, I'm assuming that if with nostalgia glasses and such, and aiming it at people because of their nostalgia, the point of that is going to be to try to make it feel more like it did in its glory days and not after it was past its prime. But leaving where you left off, like. So I got to go back and remember all of the continuity of that show versus comics and things. Like, okay. I mean, I have been doing a rewatch of that, and Jason and I were reviewing it for a while. So at least I have it more or less fresh in my mind. And at least it's on Disney Plus, which is where the rest of that is right now. So people can go back and watch up, just like people could do with Young Justice with HBO Max. But that's not what I would have done with it. Like, that is aesthetically and tonally my favorite version of X-Men. And another thing, and I always wanted to see a movie attempt to do something tonally like that, but in live action. And that sounds insane, but I always wanted to see the attempt. I enjoyed the X-Men 93. I think they called it 93. This apparently is X-Men 97, because that's the last year where, it's so weird, the last year where that show was. Are they actually really going to title it that? That's going to be very strange. And then when people go back and talk about that cartoon show, they'll call it X-Men 97, even though it didn't start in 97. Whatever, I digress. But I think, but for my money, it would have been much cooler to see those guys come back and try to reboot their own show, which could have also been terrible, certainly. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the best idea ever, but I would have loved just, new episodes that weren't stuck with the baggage of that old show, that were like, updated to some degree, kind of like the X-Men 93 comics did, but still looked and felt more or less like that show. And I don't know, like, maybe they'll be able to kind of have their cake and eat it too, and it will sort of be what I'm talking about, regardless of the fact that it will technically still have their continuity in the background, and they won't have to revisit major stories and things. I certainly don't need to see Dark Phoenix a 500th time in any iteration ever again. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on the X-Men thing. DJ, how do you feel about this kind of thing just in general? Like, do you, because a lot of people are of the opinion that once a thing is done, it ought to be put to bed and done. And like, maybe you can reboot it, but what is the point decades later of trying to make new episodes of a thing that it was canceled or ended, and when the sensibilities of the world are obviously so totally different?
Whew, a big question. Yeah, it's tough, right? It's a near impossible task to come out of successfully, because a large number of the audience, I feel a large number of the audience is probably not going to be happy no matter what you do, because it's not going to be exactly what they had when they were a kid, and there's no way you can recreate that. But even the ones that are more likely to like it, it's still super hard to please them, because their sensibilities are completely different. They've grown, in this case, over 20 years now. Completely different person. Like,
how do you make it for the same audience that is no longer the same audience?
Yeah,
age-wise and experience-wise.
Trying to make something that taps into someone's nostalgia but it's not actually, they're not actually nostalgic for it. It's a new thing, but you're trying to create sorry, you're trying to create nostalgia in a bottle. It's really hard to do, but it has worked a few times. I think there's a couple times. It's not animated, but I think people said that the of all things, the Saved by the Bell new version of this, it's not a reboot, but the continuation of that was actually pretty fun and was funny. But I don't know. It seems like it's such a risk. It seems like
well, of course, I love Cobra Kai. This has been done well in things before. I think in animation, it's harder in certain ways, or it has different challenges, right? Because one of the hardest things is just to make it look like it did.
Well, and that's the thing. You don't want it to look exactly like it did. Like, that animation is not great, and the character designs are insane. Like, literally everyone is about to burst out of their. I know, but that's just 90s comics. But you don't want to fully lose that either. It won't be that show. Yeah, it's got to have the life out of it all. And we've had problems with this with some of the DC animated movies that are trying to call back to comic art or call back to like the early Batman shows. Like, you can't get it exactly right, but you don't want to. It needs to be a little bit modernized. It's hard. I don't envy anyone who's given this task to bring one of these shows back. But I am optimistic. Like because of those few times where it really works. Like if it's not like it's this or a new show. Like that's not on the table for the executives. They're doing this because they know it'll sell because of nostalgia. So it's like if they have to do it anyway, then I hope it's good. I'll check it out. If it's not, it's not really.
I guess if you're right and those weren't the two options, then I can see trying it, but I'm not sure why that other option isn't there, considering that they have the rights to X-Men again, and it's been pretty popular back in comics again for the last couple of years. Hickman is leaving now, but it's been more in the public eye, at least from the comic reading side. People are curious to see what MCU ends up doing. Like I said, you could really kind of give kids a history lesson and make them X-Men fans. Because this show's not going to do that, or at least I don't think it's likely to. I don't think my kids, sure, but not everybody's my kids being raised with all the stuff that I loved when I was a kid, right? Like, how many kids are going to see that this is a new thing, go back to the beginning with this, dated, weird-looking show from the early 90s, watch all of it and go, this is my X-Men now, I hope the movies are like this. And also, how is this show really going to inform what MCU does with X-Men that much? Who knows? No. But what I'm saying is, X-Men has been not a kid thing for a very long time. And to be honest with you, maybe the MCU doesn't need a cartoon show to make kids X-Men fans, because the movies have done just a good job all by themselves making kids fans of all kinds of stuff, like Iron Man, Guardians, etc., etc. So maybe that's a moot point. But when you say it was either this or nothing, I don't know. Was it though? They never had a conversation of we've had 3 or 4 different animated Spider-Man iterations the last few years that nobody but little kids have watched. Not one adult I know has seen any of that stuff and liked it, and so didn't keep watching. There wasn't talk about doing that. It's got to have a movie first before they do X-Men.
I'm not saying there was never talk. I'm sure people pitched it to him, but if you tell an exec, hey, can we get a brand new aesthetic with a brand new team and a brand new X-Men show, or can we capitalize on the biggest X-Men show we've ever had? Of course they're going to say, yeah, do that.
It makes me wonder what the numbers have been for that show on Disney+.
Yeah, that might be a big thing too.
Because maybe that's the reason that they accepted that pitch. Somebody mentioned, I wanted to talk about this for a second. Somebody mentioned Samurai Jack as an example of when you should come back, no matter how long it's been, because a thing needs an ending. Obviously, of course, X-Men is not like that. Spider-Man. Spectacular Spider-Man is like that. And people for a long time have been clamoring for another season of that show. And again, the question is just, if it came back, would it be enough of the same thing? Or would it be, striving too hard to feel like the same thing, and then ends up watching, again, like self-parody, or just it looks like it's trying too hard.
That show is also very seriously steeped in mid 2000s. The song is very mid 2000s, the opening song. So
do you want it to just feel like what the next season of that would have been, and hope that the writers can put themselves back in that place from 14, 15 years ago, and remember what that period's like, remember where their headspaces were, and try to mimic exactly what they were doing? Or do you want them to be informed by the history of their own personal histories and their experiences over the last 15 years and where the world is now when they make another season? I don't know. It's hard to say. And
I would like it not to be informed by what Spider-Man has only been for the last 10 years.
Spider-Man especially.
Spider-Verse slot stuff and all the Morlock or whatever that guy's, Moreland, whatever that guy's name is, all that stuff. I don't want them to know about that yet. Just keep the old villains from before that show ended.
Yeah, but I mean, like, do you do the honest to God next season of that, or do you age everybody up and set it now? Like, I wouldn't.
That would be cool.
I wouldn't necessarily want that, but at the same time, I can see the merit to both of those things. And at the end of the day, I guess my answer on this is my stock answer for everything, which is you can make anything work, right? It's just a matter of when you see patterns. It's difficult not to say this is what happens when you do this, and that's not necessarily true. We just haven't had enough really great examples of this. I didn't watch it because I'm not a He-Man guy, but a lot of people were not happy with Kevin Smith's He-Man. That was a thing that also did this ostensibly, that came back and added to the initial canon that was there already. But it was, from everything I've heard, confused about it, where it felt like it was sort of in that world, but also sort of couldn't be. And that's another part of this, is when the Superman Returns thing, the ambiguity of, well, it is and it isn't. Because of how difficult it is to just go back to 80s Saturday morning cartoons. Because, of course, people want it to be... It's like the Power Ranger question. It's like the IDW Power Rangers comics, where it's like, well, how do you make it what it was without making it too much of what it was? Because it's like having your cake and eating it too. Well, we don't want to lose too much of the mythology and the history of this thing, because that's what a lot of people love about it, and we don't want to pave over it. We don't want to make it a complete reimagining. I think that's what Power Rangers should have been, but they didn't think that's what fans would buy. Because you got to remember, you got to think of the commercial side of this also. What are the fans actually going to buy versus what will make for great storytelling? But at the same time, you're not selling it for, to your point earlier, the 9-year-old versions of these people that grew up with this stuff. So they're going to want it to be more sophisticated. And at the same time be exactly the same thing. It's not possible. Now, the Spectacular Spider-Man's a different story, because that was a somewhat sophisticated show, relatively.
Yeah, but the problem with that, like, that would be cool if they aged him up, but the problem with that is, like, it'd be cool if they, like, aged him up and we got to see, like, Kraven's Last Hunt and, like, these kind of stories in that universe.
Yeah.
But that art style is so cartoony that those stories would look super weird in that universe, and you can't change the art style, because then what's the point of it? Doesn't even look like the same show. So
yeah, or could you tweak it in such a way where it looks like it's sort of in the same reality but isn't quite as
his head's not as
coloring
big.
book looking? Like, because that show looks like a coloring book.
Yeah, it's super slimmed down character models. I don't know. I think they can get away with just this looking kind of like the 90s X-Men show, and then just tell your own stories. I don't think anyone is going to be like a stickler for continuity from the 90s show. I think you could just make a cool show. I just hope it doesn't look like the animation from What If, which I don't hate, but it's not what the 90s revival should look like.
Are you concerned about that just because that's the only animation we've gotten from Disney Plus so far? Well, besides, I guess, the anime thing from Star Wars, which was a bunch of different groups.
Yeah, but they just farmed it out to different studios. Yeah, I don't know what this is going to look like. I'm assuming they're going to try to make it look as close as they can.
Well, again, I don't think there's any reason to worry yourself that it'll look like What If. I think that Spider-Man freshman year show they're doing, there's maybe concern for that could be the MCU house style. But this is the same producers and animators from that show coming back. There's, if anything, it's going to look... I was going to say, if anything, it'll look too much like that old show, but I don't know. I mean, the argument from those guys has always been, if they just gave us more time, the show would have looked better, and we could have fixed a lot of mistakes. Like, we weren't Batman the Animated Series only because we didn't get the money and the production time that those guys got. That's always been the reason or the excuse, depending on how you look at it. And I would argue somewhat, maybe, depending on what the show looks like, because if they have something closer to sky's the limit kinds of resources, we should get to see what a nigh, in their minds, perfect product looks like. You know what I mean? I mean, it is also a bunch of years later, and some of these guys haven't worked in all that time. Their main guy is coming out of retirement to do this. It's the only, I forget his name, but he said it's the only thing he'd ever come back for. So, I mean, what I just said is maybe not entirely fair, but anyway, it's not going to look like What If.
I also don't think they're not going to get all the time in the world to work on it either. They're going to rush it out in 2 years and have to have it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, but it's not going to be as rushed as that old show probably, because they're not going to have to meet like, weekly or whatever episode deadlines, and they'll be able to work on all of it at once and make it.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing how many.
I'm hoping it's not more than 8 or 10 episodes.
Exactly. I was going to say, how many episodes do you think it is? It's probably just going to be like how we do TV now, 10 to 13.
That's the hope. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. Just make it look like that so it can garner an audience, and then make a cool 10-episode miniseries that is a good story that I don't need to go back and watch the other show for. That's the best I can hope for.
And I don't think that's exactly what you'll get, because they've always obsessively talked about it like we want to come back where we left off, and I'm like, why? Should we go to the phones? Should we see what people are saying about this?
All right, our first caller is from, I don't know where he's from. Where's Tom from? Oklahoma. T-Edge1. Sorry, Tom. $10 from T-Edge1.
Thanks, Tom.
He says, what are your thoughts on the Disney Plus Day announcements / teasers? What did you think of the new No Way Home trailer? And will you see, or will there be an Afterlife spoiler cast? Great show tonight. I love how he posted that before the show started, and he already said great show tonight. Thanks for your confidence, Tom. He says great show tonight. Let's Scooby-Doo this crap. Then
I show up in a burlap sack with a burlap like sack over my head and no shirt, and like, great show tonight. So I guess it's fair because it was a $10 super chat. Thanks, Tom. But he just gave us like half an hour's worth of content all in one block there. Let me work backwards. I'm not doing a spoiler cast right now. Connor and I are long-winded, which means that sometimes our how we felt abouts end up watching a little bit like spoiler cast, but what we're doing right now is not spoiler cast in the sense that we're not hitting every nook and cranny of the thing. So we might have a small spoiler section, we'll do some minor spoilers, and the show, depending on how much we have to say, is liable to be longer than a half hour like they have been lately, but not a full-blown spoiler cast, but we will have a how we felt about, regardless of how long it ends up being, on Ghostbusters Afterlife Sunday into Monday. I'm cautiously optimistic and excited about that movie. I'm finding myself suddenly kind of jazzed to see it, and that is, I mean, I've been curious about it all this time, but I'm just realizing, I'm a couple days from when I'm probably going to go see it, and I'm like, ooh, I'm actually kind of excited to go see this movie, which is a fun place to be in. So if it's good, it will be 4 in a row for me that I've actually really enjoyed in a movie theater, and that is a record for a long time. So anyway, that's exciting. I hope it's good. And then he asked about the No Way Home trailer. DJ, I got concerns, man. I got worries about it. I hope that
join the club. I have nothing but concerns. I could not think. I don't think I could in a lab make a movie or a concept for a movie that was less made for me. Like everything about it is a turnoff for me. Like there's not one thing I can cling on to with that. So I'm sorry.
It's feeling more. The premise of that is more and more feeling so ultra contrived and built by, a Sony committee, like you said, in a lab. I mean, it feels so far like a thing built in a lab, and I'm hoping that it turns out to really win me over, and that Peter Parker and that has a great character arc. I'm glad that more and more it looks like it is going to be his movie. By the way, Tom Holland has come out and said, "Look, I'm not lying. The other 2 Spider-Man actors are not in this movie. Like, I don't know what I have to do to convince you people they're not in this movie."
They're never gonna believe you until they won't even believe you when they see the movie. They're there's a fan cut. They cut him out. They cut him out at the last minute. It was the studios. It's a big conspiracy. Like they'll never believe them.
Yeah, I'm still occasionally seeing messages and getting messages from people that are like, man, I just really hope that the other Spider-Men don't, take this movie over. I'm like, according to Holland, who, by the way, does not have a reputation for, he's got the opposite of this. He doesn't have a reputation for lying and selling movies on, conjecture and stuff. He has a reputation for telling too much of the truth too early. If he says they're not in it, that is the biggest stunt ever, and no one will ever believe anything he ever says again. Like spoiling crap on a late-night talk show or otherwise.
I don't know. I mean, like, Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just like a cameo at the very end or something. If and he's able to justify it in his head that he's like they're not in it. I don't know. But
Maybe
it sounds like they're nothing.
maybe the director shot a cameo with them that will be an after credit scene that Holland himself still doesn't know about.
Yeah, they can't even. I would believe that because they don't even want to tell him because he would spoil it. That'd be amazing.
Well, then he shouldn't be naive enough to be like, look, they're not in it. He should be like, as far as I know, because nobody tells me anything about my own movies anymore.
That's hilarious.
I bet I bet the contract he had to sign when he signed on to be in what is that video game movie, that Sony movie that he's in, Uncharted. I bet the contract in that he had to sign said he only gets to look at half a page a day, and that he's not allowed.
He looks at the shooting script. He gets the script. He gets the page like right before they shoot that day. Yep, he has to learn it real quick, and then he can shoot the scene.
Yeah, and he has to be okay with getting neuralized by the Men in Black neuralizer at the end of every day.
Man. Videos would love it if that invention existed. Just at the end of every shoot, like all the grips and the catering just blast everybody and nothing gets released.
We just turn everybody's brains into mush, so that we can make our like multi-million-dollar movies. That's amazing.
It's the most important thing. That in sports.
Or you go see a really bad movie, and then at the end of the movie, there's a neuralizer built into the film, and then a person just starts talking and telling you that you saw a better movie.
I just did a video, not just did it, but during October about this great movie called Diabolique. I think I told you about it. It's kind of around the time of Psycho, 1955.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, there is literally a card that says no spoilers. Like, it said, please don't tell anyone what you saw here. Let them have the same experience you had. I wish we still did that. That's amazing.
Awesome.
It's such a cool title card at the end. It was so classy.
I like that. But anyway, so I'll talk a little bit about that trailer. Like I said, I have a lot of concerns. I want to be certainly open-minded. I know there's a lot of people that are super stoked and more excited about it after this trailer. Again, because it looks like it might be like people are saying, oh look, Holland said that it was going to be darker, and that there were going to be more real personal stakes for Peter Parker. The end of the trailer is teasing an MJ death a la Gwen Stacy. I don't know for sure that that's what we'll get, considering that we kind of had the same thing with Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Gwen Stacy dies in that movie. Spoilers for that movie! But, so
also, we did in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie with MJ.
Yeah, I know, but, like, they're teasing it, like... So, Holland made a big deal that there's going to be some real tragedy, finally, for Peter Parker in this movie, which is the big thing I've been asking for, because that's important in Spider-Man, and that it's going to come... And from everything we're seeing, it seems like it's likely to come from, mistakes he makes with the best of intentions. He's trying to make it so that the world doesn't know he's Spider-Man, not just because it makes his own life easier, but because his friends and family won't be in danger. Okay, that seems like a Peter Parker thing to do. That's better than your sorry, I'm being distracted by noises upstairs. That's a little bit better than, like, I want to make a deal with the devil to save my, like, 99-plus-year-old aunt. So like, it's like I can...
He's gonna die the next year.
Yeah, I can kind of see that premise a little bit better than... God, why can't I think of the name of that story? I'm always complaining about that story, and I can't think of the name of it right now, DJ.
Is it One More Day?
One More Day, thank you very much.
Sorry, I was
No Way Home's throwing me off because this is the same syllable count. And then... And then, okay, all these villains come over, and he finds out that they all die in their own universes because of Spider-Man, and he feels responsible for that, so he wants to save them somehow. That's a little goofy, but it does seem like maybe the Peter Parker response. So, like, I'm seeing already narratively and thematically how this is the ways in which this is a potentially like classic or old school Spider-Man story, but everything about the initial premise feels really contrived to me. So like, what about that spell makes it so that just villains in that are connected to Spider-Man come over to our universe? Hopefully that ends up making sense. They all get pulled. It looks like, more or less just before they would have gotten killed off in their movies, including, I should add, characters that don't die in those movies. We're told by Peter Parker, Doctor Strange 1 has, I think it was Peter Parker, has a line that all of these people die. Oh yeah, Doctor Strange is like, yeah, that's their fate. Like, you have to let that happen. We're gonna make the same. I guess I like this. Okay, we're gonna make the
Charlie
same mistake again that we just made in messing up reality, because we're messing with the with like the way things are supposed to unfold, the way like history has kind of chosen to unfold, right? And so we just have to let those terrible things happen. But like, Sandman's there. He didn't die in that movie. So I guess you're just saying that eventually he was going to, and it was going to be Spider-Man's fault, right? Like,
Sandman. He was destined to drift away at the end with the amulet in his hand. I
haven't
even watched the trailers, so
because he doesn't die in that movie. So that's interesting. More of my concerns have to do with just writing. It's already, how in 2021 does Marvel Studios not understand that if you put something like Scooby-Doo that crap in a trailer, it's gonna be super meme bait, and like, everybody's gonna make fun of you, and that's all anybody's gonna be thinking about.
Oh,
or a lot of people.
In the trailer?
Twice. Yeah, Doctor Strange says to MJ and Peter, I need you to Scooby-Doo this crap. And MJ is like, oh, you should be more polite. Like, I know some magic words too. You should say please. And then he says, please, Scooby-Doo this crap. And I'm like, did Greg Berlanti write this script? Like,
how can they even do that? That's a WB
Arrowverse. You can reference anything you want to, DJ. It's not like singing a song or having pictures of it on the screen. You can reference anything.
But you don't want to. None of these big giant Disney doesn't want to like give advertising for.
It's a good point. It is weird to put it in your trailer.
That's really weird. Now it's blowing up and everyone's talking about Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those are my bigger concerns with it. I hope it turns out okay. I'm somewhat in where you are, DJ, where like, I like multiverse stuff more than you do. I don't want the thing to just be a big giant gimmick in order for Sony to try to like reestablish their ownership of Spider-Man. It feels so self-indulgent to me. Just the more I'm seeing this, where it's like, look, we make Spider-Man movies, you guys. Like, it's in the MCU, but we're the ones making these things. I mean, that's what it screams to me. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, guys. You wish that things had turned out differently, and they didn't, and this was the way you were able to keep making Spider-Man movies. At least be more thoughtful about it. I'm still doubling down on my Goosebumps thing. More and more, it just looks like that movie.
Amazing. Goosebumps 2. You gotta start calling it that, like you call it.
I'd have to call it Goosebumps 3, I guess, because it got a sequel, which was just the same movie again, but worse.
Oh wow. Well, and House with a Clock in its walls might as well have been a Goosebumps 3. So maybe this is Goosebumps 4.
This is the Goosebumps reboot with Spider-Man.
All right, shall we move on?
Stephen Murphy says, just a second. Here for Molina and Defoe, hoping for the best but not expecting much. Yeah, I mean, yay, those actors are coming back, and I like those guys, and Molina looks great with the de-aging stuff so far, and we got to hear Defoe give in audio at the end of that. I thought we'd see him, but we we saw the Green Goblin costume, but not Defoe in the role, so we don't really know what the de-aging effect will look like with him. I assume they have to do that if they're doing that, but
or he just stays in costume the whole time, like Dr. Oliver in Dino Thunder, just records it from a landline and LA.
There's been like set photos and stuff, like he's definitely going to be unmasked somewhere in that movie.
Sure.
But just because the actors are great doesn't mean that the movie will be, and that they'll be given anything to work with. It's just more and more it's looking ultra gimmicky, and I'm having a hard time getting really excited about it. And I know a lot of people are going to love it probably, I mean, like, look, the movie's not out yet. I don't know what it's going to look like. But, like, a lot of people are going to go there for the stuff that I just don't need. And if the story's not great, it will be harder for me to enjoy it. And I know not everybody will have that. And so I am likely to be harsher to a lot of people on this movie than they will be, because they'll just be excited that they get to see all these old elements that they never thought would come back again. And DJ, the novelty of that kind of thing is so worn off on
this
me.
Is exactly the conversation we were just having with the bringing back animated shows. Yeah, it's so weird. It's like everything
that stuff is still there. You can go back and look at it. Like, why does it have to be? You know, you've got to be really creative with it if you're going to bring it back. I don't need, you know, like all the same moments and stuff. I'm worried about that with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm really hoping that that's smart about it, because it's hitting a lot of those decades later sequel beats already, where like it's got to have, you know, a kid or kids of the you know, original characters, the passing the torch thing, and it's got to bring back, you know, a lot of the same iconography and the same villains, and I don't want it to just be the same movie again. And I don't want it to, you know, feel creatively bankrupt, of course, where we're like, well, it's got to play it safe, because those are the things that'll make people go to the movie theater. Yeah, but I have it on disc. I can watch it. You know, you got to bring some new stuff to the table, and I'm hoping that movie does that. I have a tad more faith that Ghostbusters will manage that than I do with Spider-Man. Hilariously, same studio.
That's what Sony's bread and butter, the nostalgia company. Be moved. All right. So next up. Oh, this is right in line with what we're talking about. Jedi Knight.
I'm sorry. I got to change something on my screen. It still says After Dark tonight from last week. We're not having After Dark tonight. I apologize for that.
Whoops.
Sorry about that. So instead, you know, I could just delete that, DJ, and not put anything on the screen. But I think instead I'm going to type
live
in
editing.
Be moved. There you go. Everybody, ask me anything and be moved.
Be moved. If you're not moved by our answers, get out of our chat. All right, Jedi Knight. What casts?
Once again, let me reiterate. I'm gonna see, of course, the Spider-Man movie, and I hope it's great, and I hope that there's more going on there than it looks there is, and I hope that Doctor Strange is not as infuriating as he's looking in those trailers. But like there's a Ragnarok thing going on with him, it feels like, and I really hope that that's not how it reads somehow when we see the movie. This is gonna sound awful, because again, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. Maybe now and later. I realize that a lot of people are really excited about this movie, and more so because of that trailer. I get that. I'm just calling it like I'm seeing it. I hope all the worst things are in that trailer. That's my hope.
That would be amazing. Some studio should try that. Just put all the worst parts in the trailer. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I don't even know if I want to see it. I probably will end up having to see it just because we're going to talk about it on the show so much. But nothing's making me.
Welcome to my world, man.
Another one about that real quick. Adam Arch, $5. Next week is Thanksgiving, and we got to see Dafoe's Goblin in the trailer this week.
Oh,
the question still stands: who brought the yams to Thanksgiving?
We've already been over this. We've already done this.
I hope that comes back. I hope he comes back and is like, "Did you enjoy the fruitcake?" And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?
You're not Peter Parker. You didn't bring any fruitcake. Where's the bike messenger?
I was gonna say the same.
Broom him fast.
Oh gosh. All right, what are we doing? All right, I think that's all about that. Here's another one, Bob the Hun. If they're not in it, I'm not watching it.
Oh,
if they weren't willing to do that, they should have done a normal third film. A lot don't like MCU Spidey. Also, he wants them to just come in and like take over, sideline MCU Spidey.
I would say that you're in the minority on that, probably. But I do agree that a lot of people understand that sentiment.
They want this to like tie in those other movies a lot more, especially Toby. And I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be like a character arc for Toby. A lot of people want that.
Well, no, because if Tom Holland's to believe, he's not in the movie. But no, again, I hate to keep saying this. It's the Goosebumps thing. It's just, here's all these characters from all these disparate
it's the Space
things.
Jam thing, yeah.
And I mean, in this case, just 2 disparate things. Well, 3 if you count Venomverse, because he's apparently in this movie.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, and like, so here's.
Because they gotta have 6. Because they've been trying to do a Sinister Six movie for almost a decade now, and they're finally doing the most contrived way possible. It's the only way they can get 6 films in a movie is to do this crazy.
So I have so many
spell.
points I want to make right now, and we're already 45 minutes into the show, so I'm not going to make them all. I was going a certain direction. I'm going to row the boat down a different stream here. So that first movie, Homecoming, introduced like 4 potential villains.
So well, the best any comic book movie has ever done that with that many villains.
Yeah. And it hasn't done anything since then with any of them. And yeah, apparently Michael Keaton is going to keep playing Vulture in things that aren't these Spider-Man movies.
We have Vulture, we have Tinkerer, we have Scorpion. Like, you didn't have to bring in all these.
Today or yesterday, there was an announcement that Michael Keaton is, or Michael Keaton came out and said, like, I'm shooting Vulture stuff for some undisclosed project.
It's like, yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. It's like everyone got down Gwyneth Paltrow's throat for not knowing she was in Homecoming. They don't tell them anything. They come in and shoot one scene and they send them home. Like, they don't know. It's not their fault.
No, I think the undisclosed project could be this.
Yeah, especially because they shoot scenes just like by himself.
Yeah.
And then they cut it. They add the other people later. Like, they're not even in the scene.
This movie's coming out next month. I think Michael Keaton might be in it, and he doesn't even know. I'm actually joking about that, but stranger things these days have happened, honestly.
I mean, it could have just been reshoots for Morbius, because we know he's already in that, but who knows?
No, the way he put it, though, he said some undisclosed MCU thing. I got the impression he doesn't know what it is.
Wow. Well,
but I don't know that for sure. That's all I read. It's just a tweet. I don't know. Anyway, I digress again. But, man, that, I just feel like all you have to do is cleverly introduce all the characters that you want to, like, in the same movie, and then just make it happen. Like, we've seen this kind of thing juggled okay now. And yeah, like, you did set up some characters that it would be nice if you brought back, but I'd go as far as to say I would even rather most of the Sinister Six be introduced in a movie doing the Sinister Six than pulling them all from universes that existed already with versions that I'm not invested in anymore or never was. Like, Green Goblin is fun. Doc Ock was a good character who had a fine arc, and we killed him off in his movie. I don't need any more from that particular version. I certainly don't need him to get pulled out before he dies and add stuff to his story, right? Sandman, he... Like really contrived motivations. My daughter is sick. That makes it okay for me to break the law. I don't need to see him again, and I'm assuming he's just going to be a special effect. I don't even know if Church is coming back. Are we gonna have 2 Venoms? Are we bringing back the Venom from that movie? Is he going to be in this?
No, yes, they're going to bump into each other and be like,
you're not going to have New Goblin because that guy got Me Too'd. I don't think he's even working right now, is he?
Who?
The guy who played Harry Osborn?
Oh.
He hasn't even been in Hollywood.
We could have 3 goblins. We could have a
That's
new
true.
goblin. We could have a
what if he got recast? Everybody's confused. Who's this guy?
Well, they could get his brother Dave Franco to play him. That would work.
A lot of people are confused about this. Darth Bobo, why did they do a redesign on Electro but not the terrible Lizard or Green Goblin design? I don't get it. So, the talk early on, and this was the thing that months ago made me throw my hands in the air and say to DJ on the show, I don't trust anything about any reporting with this movie anymore. I don't know who's in it. I don't know what it's about. I don't know if it's multiverse. I don't trust anything. Now we know more things. It obviously is multiverse. It's obviously these versions of these characters, except Electro. Still not obvious what exactly is going on there. So early on, we were told that it was the same actor, but a different version of that character. And now we're seeing him in a different costume. So that seems to track. So for some reason, unless this is actually not true, and they just used the same character but gave him a different costume because they thought that was everybody's problem with that character, I don't know. He will come from a different universe, hear me out for a second, played by the same actor, where apparently he also died fighting Spider-Man, because all of these characters apparently did, even if we didn't see it happen in their movies, and got brought in from that other universe, and we won't see the Electro that we saw in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Everybody confused? Is everybody confused?
You're selling me on the movie, that's for sure.
Blue Dragon 5, there was a second Goblin suit in the trailer. Who it was, not 100%, but another Goblin design. Yeah, and then I don't know, and I'm sure people have looked into this and people know things, and all I've done is watch the trailer a couple times, but there's like a metal-looking Spider-Man suit that I don't think is supposed to be Holland Spider-Man, but like he very often will wear more than one suit in a movie, so maybe that is him, but I thought that was maybe supposed to be a Spider-Man from another universe, but maybe like an evil one or something. I don't know what's going on with that. Somebody in the comments will tell me, I'm sure. Because I'm sure everyone but me already knows what that is. Because that's what always happens with this stuff.
Oh, man.
Sparty Pants tutoring, I'm not sure if that Electro is the same as we saw before. Exactly. I don't think it's supposed to be. But it's very strange that they're doing that, and I hope that there's some kind of in-story explanation for, like, why that particular character? Why is he the one that's not from his... I don't understand.
Why stop there, man? Get all three goblins, get both lizards. Apparently we can have the Doc Connors from the original trilogy. He apparently turned into lizard.
No, Oshaman, not Dane DeHaan. I'm just not thinking of actors' names right now. The original Harry Osborn.
Yeah, James Franco.
James Franco, yeah. He got me to it, from what I heard. He hasn't done anything in a few years. Since, I don't think he's made anything since Disaster Artist.
Yeah, and a lot of people think it took that award from him.
Now, it is possible, I guess, that we'd get multiple Electros played by the same actor. But I don't really know why they would show us that costume in the trailer to confuse everybody. If that were the case. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But okay, the other point sorry, we're still talking about this. The other point, when I midstream changed streams, the other point I wanted
just
to make...
don't cross the streams.
I'm gonna try. But as we know from Ghostbusters, nothing actually happens, so it's fine.
It's okay.
No big deal. DJ, I think there's a good chance... I'm probably gonna get flack for saying this. I think there's a real good chance that the worst stuff is not in the trailer. And that a lot of the goofy, I think, like over-the-top humor... or I don't even want to say goofy, but just the kind of like out of character dialogue that we're getting in that movie that goes beyond MCU humor from what we've seen so far. Again, not seen the movie yet. Maybe in context, this has happened before, where a thing that I hated in a trailer in context was fine. There's a lot of that already in a couple of trailers, so I'm not trusting that. But hear me out. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be doubling down on MCU humor. Let's make it more like Ragnarok. And that idea that we're going to have this, like, ultimately super dark as far as subject matter goes, or as far as the stakes go kind of movie, so we're overcompensating with the dialogue writing, with the humor, right? I think it could be doubling down on Venom, because it's Sony making the movie, and he's in that movie. So what if it doesn't feel all that much like an MCU movie at all? What if a lot of it is... let's just make MCU Spider-Man more like Venom. Look how much money those are making.
Well, and
I hope I'm wrong about this. That could be I hope this is a crazy person thing to say, but as soon as you put him in that movie, all bets are off about tonally what that thing is going to look like, right?
And it's also, we've seen this in the MCU where A director makes a really good first movie. James Gunn made a really, really good first movie, and he had some reins on him with MCU. Then they gave him like full range in the second one, he added in more humor that didn't work. And then the same thing happened with John Watts. He added more humor in Far From Home that didn't work after getting a successful first movie, and this could just be a further extrapolation of that, where he has full control now, and he's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what that guy, how much humor that guy likes to put in his movies.
Yeah.
I did not think anything was funny in Far From Home. That's for sure.
Yeah. Chewbacca's lover, they haven't changed Willem Dafoe's costume because of nostalgia. Nobody has nostalgia for Electro. Fair point, but again, I don't get why the talk early on was it's not that universe's version. And I will actually be surprised at this point if that isn't the case for some reason. And if it is, it's even more baffling. Like, if it actually is the Amazing Spider-Man 2 version, because, yeah, nobody has nostalgia for that, but you haven't changed the costumes for anybody else you're showing in the trailers. So all you're doing is confusing people. Because I keep hearing people talk about it, where, like, people are like, why would you change that? I'm so confused. Like,
are they all supposed to not be, like, exactly the versions that we saw, and they just use those costumes because, like he said, they're nostalgic for those costumes? It's like, it's weird. I don't know. Imagine having nostalgia for that Green Goblin costume.
Daniel Davis, John Watts doesn't strike me as a filmmaker who will rock the boat. I don't think so either.
He's probably being told by a million Sony execs what to do.
Okay, we really need to move on. So we're almost an hour into the show, and we've got lots of super chats and other questions. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. DJ, how about a couple of super chats and then a pre-written so that we don't shaft those?
Well, Robert Wild says, "I'm really sick today. Please tell a joke." And I say to him, apparently watch the new Spider-Man trailer. It sounds like an absolute travesty.
Oh man, thanks a bunch to all the subscribers that we just lost for being here for as long as you were. Hey guys, I'm sorry. I'm gonna change my mind for or just stop everything for just a second. So DJ, find us a super chat, and we're an hour in. Let's take just a real quick break, and I'll be right back. Give me like 2 minutes, and we'll start the show right back up again.
Sure. You're gonna put a title card up?
I will.
Like, okay. Sounds good. I will. I mean, that was a super chat. Sorry you're feeling sick, Robert Wild.
Oh goodness. Well, thanks for the super chat. But if you're not feeling good, you don't have to give us money unless it makes you feel better somehow.
He's saving us from this conversation we're having. All right. I'll see you in a bit.
Yep. Thanks. I'll be right back. And we're back. Thanks for your patience, everybody. DJ, throw us a super chat, sir.
All right, let's get away from this topic a little bit. All right.
Now, I think we did have maybe some questions about our lead-in topic that we never got to.
Yeah, but those are some pre-writtens.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
We actually do have one. Yeah, well, I can do this. Chewbacca's Lover, $5. This is a super chat. Have you read the book on the making of that show previously on X-Men? Really interesting stuff on what they chose to adapt and how they picked characters.
I meant to order that when it came out, and I forgot about it, and time got away from me, and I haven't heard about it again since then. I forgot all about that book. So yes, I will try to track down a copy of that and read it at my earliest convenience. Not a lot of time when I don't have babies in my hands right now where I can actually sit down and read things. I don't know when I'm going to get to that, but I really wanted to read that. So thanks for reminding me about that. In fact, I'm going to pull that up on Amazon right now.
Shopping with Cap.
That a little bit later, just to remind myself. Hopefully, it's still a thing I can get my hands on, because I'm sure that wasn't a big print run. I also love that title, by the way.
Yeah, previously. That's really cool. Surprised there's not a bunch of books titled that.
Yeah, it's true. That could be a whole series of making of books. It's a good idea. Yes, naturally this is unavailable. Oh, I can get the paperback for $35, but I would much rather have the hardcover. But that's okay. I will get that at some point.
Crapton Logan in the chat says,
oh, he's back. Crapton Logan. Why did I ever have to make that mistake in a live show? This didn't happen at the Captain Logan show, so a lot of you guys are going to be in the dark. But I can't remember what show it was. I think it was one of the marathons I did with Austin. There was a commenter who said Cap, and I accidentally read it as crap, and then he came in at Crapton Logan, and has been making fun of me ever since, like 3 weeks. What's up?
You said in the regular chat, I like how much more chill this chat is than the Spider-Man subreddit. LOL. That place is pure cancer.
Oh, man.
I can imagine.
I have heard that it's just been nothing but civil war in the Spider-Man fan community ever since that came out. And I don't mean to sound cynical when I say this, but DJ, sometimes it feels like there's got to be something. There always just has to be something.
Always something with these subredditors. What are the...
No, I just mean in fandom in general, where it's like, it's been too long since something really made a lot of people angry, and so everybody's just got to figure out something to fight about. Like, let folks have their opinions. It's fine. Like, if you think that movie looks great, then go watch it, and I hope you love it. And people that aren't excited about it should be allowed to not be excited about it. And yeah, you want to make arguments about the reasons that you're glad that's going to be there. Maybe you haven't thought about this. Here's a thing that maybe we line up on that you haven't thought about. Maybe it'll win you over. But the idea that, and I know I've said this a lot, but the idea, first of all, that everybody has to think just like you do is preposterous and wrong, and not what makes life, frankly, worth living in the first place. We're all different people. We should be allowed, everybody should be allowed to have different ideas and thoughts on things, and to even be wrong sometimes. Even that's okay. We don't all come from the same backgrounds, the same understandings of things. You got to let people catch up if they don't understand everything you understand, or have the same or ignorant about things that you don't know. I'm rambling now. I apologize. But you also, I don't know where I'm going with this. The whole thing bothers me. The whole thing bothers me.
Be constructive. If there's a young kid who loves something and you're like trying to crush his dreams and saying it's crap, and like, be constructive, and like, you're not going to get him to change his opinion by shouting at him and screaming at him, and you're going to slow down his growth because he's going to try to push against you because you were so mean to him. Like, just let him grow up and go over. Like, I don't know. It seems so...
But I think the inverse is true, too. I think if I say that looks like garbage, it shouldn't ruin it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but we also want to be respectful. Like, I hope we're not being...
Sure. But I'm not saying, like, there's a difference between jumping down somebody's throat and going, "You idiot, how can you be excited about this?" And me just responding to a thing I saw.
Exactly, and that's why I think our comment section has been so civil, and people understand that.
If I see a trailer and I say, "Ooh, that doesn't look like what I want, or that looks awful, and somebody goes, well, that's offensive. You know, you've triggered me or whatever because I was very excited about that, but you're not, and that's unfair to me. I'm like, okay, well then why do you trump me? You know, and I don't trump you either. It's just like we can have a difference of opinion on this, and the thing comes out, and then we'll see which of us enjoy it and which of us don't. And you might have perfectly for yourself legitimate reasons for loving a thing that I have perfectly legitimate reasons for not liking. Maybe it's for you in a way it's not for me, and it sucks if we're getting more and more to a place where these things. I feel like they're leaving me out because I love superhero movies and that's kind of where I live. But them's the breaks, man. Like, we might just be getting to a place where they ain't making these for me anymore. That's a realization that I'm coming to with some of the stuff sometimes. It's not always the case, but it ends up being that way sometimes. I'm just saying, like, I think flame wars about opinions are stupid. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
100% agree with you. Jedi Knight, $5. What casts from 2 different universes should have Thanksgiving dinner together, and who should bring the yams?
We are still on about this yams thing.
Casts from 2 different. Did you ever see the Teen Titans Go episode where Batman comes to Thanksgiving dinner?
No. You watched Teen Titans Go?
No, it's the only episode I've ever seen.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I was like, it's the last thing on Earth I thought you would reference.
Literally the only episode I've ever seen. He shows up at the end. It was kind of funny. But yeah, casts from 2 different universes. So we're making our own multiversal Thanksgiving dinner.
I love how you're asking that after DJ's immediate response to the question about the Spider-Man trailer is, multiverses aren't really for me. I'm kind of tired of these things.
Yeah, I was tired of them before they started. You got anything?
Yeah. I want to see the cast of The Next Generation and the cast of The Orville have Thanksgiving dinner together. I think that would be great. And I think the person that should bring the yams and then have, because there aren't perfect analogs with the Orville to the characters in Next Gen, which I really appreciate, but there sort of are some. So, like, the characters that are closest to in the Orville to the characters that they're kind of parroting in Next Gen should sit across from each other or right next to each other. So you should have Isaac and Data sit across from each other and they get that conversation. But the person that should bring the yams should be what's his name? The Blob guy.
Did you just call him the Blob?
Yeah, I did. Yaffet. Yaffet should bring the yams just because I want to see that guy attempt to carry a plate of yams. Beat that, DJ.
These are the questions, people. I don't have to. I'm just the moderator.
Blue Dragon 5, Ed Mercer, and Picard would get along famously. I'm not sure if they would. That's actually an interesting thing to consider. They may or not. I don't know. I like that Ed Mercer is almost like an amalgamation of Picard and Kirk in certain ways. Maybe they would. It's hard to say.
Well, there you go.
And yeah, Stephen Murphy, Norm Macdonald, rest in peace. Norm Macdonald played Yaffet.
All right. Next up is from J Meister 25.
Hi.
$2. He says, I think I'm the only person who loved Eternals.
No, you're not. Our community was overall pretty positive about Eternals, or at least I say our community. The Patreon, the Patreon Discord. A lot of those guys seem to like it quite a bit. A lot of our guest hosts here seemed pretty positive about it. Austin likes it. Connor loves it. Connor's the other guy that loves Eternals. I really enjoyed it. I've got issues with some mythology and plot stuff, but characterization I like quite a bit. I think and there's some really thematically rich stuff going on in that movie, and it's gorgeous. So yeah, I like it a lot. I love is a strong word, but
Someone just told me to do their stats homework. I don't know what that's in reference to. I'm not a stats guy. I don't know anything about stats.
They sound desperate, really. They really need somebody to do that stat homework. They need the stat homework done. Stat.
There you go. There you go. Burned in. Last time I forced DJ to say he loves Far From Home, but I wasn't convinced by his delivery.
He's back.
But he says,
DJ,
is there a way you can force Cap to say he loves Glass?
No.
I don't have that power.
You
I don't
had
have
to
the power
read it.
to read things.
I don't have to read it. And I love that the way you worded that, even if I did read it, it wouldn't have me saying I love it. It would have me saying DJ should get me to say that I love it. Do you love Glass? I mean, more power to you if you do, but that was a train wreck, I thought, man. Wow.
I have not seen it.
No, I'm talking about the commenter.
Yeah, I know.
Because it sounds like that's somebody that is disappointed that I didn't enjoy Glass as much as he did, and boy, I just thought that was painful. That was honestly one of the most painful movies I saw that year. I thought if you got stuff out of it, that's great. I wish I could have. I hated Glass so much I stopped writing a split rewind in the middle of it, and I've never gone back to it. Like I was in the middle of I had paragraphs written, and I couldn't make myself finish that rewind.
That sucks. Bob the Hun, $5. The MTV Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and 90s Spider-Man all end on a cliffhangers.
Yeah.
So you can't skip ahead for that reason. Wouldn't make sense. Well, I'll one-up you. Also, you left off Spider-Man Unlimited. Also ends on a
which also lands on a cliffhanger. Yeah,
exactly. It's totally a cliffhanger. It's just one season, and then it just fizzles out.
I mean, it would be awkward to skip ahead in any of those, but you sort of could if you just retroactively explained how the cliffhanger was resolved and that we've all moved on. Like 90s Spider-Man, it would be pretty easy to go, and they went and had adventures jumping around the multiverse trying to find Mary Jane, and he found her, and now they're married, and she's a supermodel. Like, it's not that hard. I don't know. You could do that.
I don't want to go back to that. That was a confusing mess. I don't know. She was like a water clone. Like, ugh, it was terrible.
I wouldn't want to go back to that either. But I'm just saying, I still think it makes, to some degree, more sense than going back to X-Men wholesale, starting back where they left off.
Oh, man. Hey.
Robert Wild. Okay, look, Robert, I didn't actually see the text of the super chat. I just listened to DJ read it. So I'm assuming it said Glass with quotation marks. But he says, Robert Wild, they could just be referring to Glass in general, not a movie called Glass.
Do you love Glass?
I mean, it's useful. It's like asking if you like
materials?
Wood or metal, or, I mean, we need it. I like, you know what, I will say, I do love glass. I like glass furniture. I try to have more glass furniture in my bunker than anything else. I've been using a glass desk for a long time, and I love it. And I have, like glass display cases. And yes, I guess I do. I guess I do love the material glass.
Good to know. He's a glass man. All right, where are we going next? Commenters. We got John Ty.
Oh, and if that was as boring for everyone else as I know it was, it's your fault, Robert. It's your fault.
You didn't have to read the chat. It wasn't a super chat. So
he wrote it, though.
Fault.
He wrote it. He was opening the door. Look, the portal was open, and yes, I didn't have to walk through it, but there was an invitation right there, you know?
You can't write Cap a question and expect him not to read it.
It's like, really, well, don't say that, or every time somebody puts a question mark, they'll be like, why didn't you read it? But it's like, right. No, but certain ones, you know, you walk into the forest in Nightmare Before Christmas and you see a tree with the outline of a Christmas tree in the middle of it open. How are you not walking in? Like, you have to know.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Still haven't seen that. Hopefully this year. This will be the Christmas I finally watch that movie.
So, Nightmare Before Christmas is one of the first true on-screen multiverses. Because it's a multiverse of holiday-themed dimensions, DJ.
Oh,
and
no.
Jack Skellington lives in Halloween Town. And then there's a place in the forest where there's all these trees with images of holidays on them, and so one's got a turkey and one's got an Easter egg, etc., etc. And there's a Christmas tree one, and it's open, and Jack Skellington is too curious to not walk in and see what Christmas Town's all about, and what will blow your mind if you ever finally sit down and watch that movie, DJ.
I will this year. It's on my list.
Good. When you get to the end. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, it's not going to blow my mind if you're about to tell it to me.
Okay, well, no, I will tell you this part, though. So, you do see what looks like the, air quote, real world in that movie, and I don't know how Jack Skellington gets there, because there are these trees that lead to holiday lands, but that place just looks like the Earth. So I don't know if it's supposed to be Christmas Town, but it's not Christmas time all the time there, even though it is Halloween all the time in Halloween Town. And when he first goes there, it does look like it's always Christmas. I have no idea what's going on at the end of that movie. I have no idea.
Wow. Well,
Blue Dragon 5 says not really a multiverse. Fine. But it's sort of like a multiverse. Anyway.
Multiple universes in that sense, not in like the sense of like a pop culture multiverse. John Ty.
Right.
The new Spider-Man movie isn't pulling from One More Day, but one moment in time where Peter asks Doctor Strange for help with everyone knowing his identity.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that happens. I mean, I may not be right about this. Surely that happened post One More Day, though, right? And that, like, that itself was also looking at that material. Am I wrong? I actually don't know this for sure. But, I mean, regardless, it's a real similar situation where it's like everybody knows who you are, and that needs to be retconned somehow, so we need magic to do it. Like, and then, you make a bad deal and something goes wrong. Like, even if they're not directly, specifically looking at that source material, it's a real similar kind of situation. I don't know how you're not thinking about that when you make that movie, to some degree.
Yeah, all right, Josh Golisano. I'm not
Taking
sure.
the spear. I hear your point on that, if the, like, direct material they're looking at is not that. I'm just saying, like, when you make that movie, the more well-known of those stories is the infamous one. And surely comic fans, you've got to know that comic fans are thinking about that and might be a little bit leery of your seeming to draw from that material, even if that wasn't what you were trying to do. I'm not trying to split hairs or anything. Dagon Spear, what's confusing about the Mary Jane water clone?
Why did you wait till I took a swig of water before you said that?
Doctor Strange pops up. Yeah, well, that was a mistake. Doctor Strange pops up in One More Day, recapping that tie-in one moment in time, if memory serves. Oh, so it's before that. Interesting. Okay, well, fair enough. I didn't know that. The more you know. That is a period of comics I was not reading and have gone back and read some of, but it's not a great period of comics, so I haven't read it, or at least a lot of it, so I haven't read a ton of it. That's, anyway, got it.
All right. Josh Galisano, I'm not sure if you guys have talked about this, but how do y'all feel about the new Spider-Man cartoon set during freshman year?
So, we'll see.
What's it gonna be? There's no Spider-Man. Like, what? There's no villains? You can't add villains before that.
I'm feeling funky about that as a choice. First of all, I really don't want animated shows filling in a bunch of gaps in the MCU. I've always been kind of weird about, and I've talked about this a lot, but so I'll try to be short on this, but I've always been kind of weird about like animation and live action both technically being in just different mediums in general, like all being in the same universe, because very often the kind of storytelling ends up being different enough. It's hard to suspend my disbelief. I'm like, yeah, you're making a cartoon. And not every animated thing obviously is cartoony. I'm just saying very often this happens where just the tone is too different. It's hard to buy that it's in the same universe. And it's also very often one thing won't necessarily inform the other thing very much. So if the MCU doesn't really do very much with what's established in that animated show, it will just kind of feel superfluous and won't really matter even if it technically is canon. Now, considering that the Disney Plus stuff is informing the MCU movies to some degree and vice versa, there's every reason to believe that it actually might sort of be important. And the only reason, like with What If, it's animated is because they're just not going to commit the budget to make that happen. Or they can't, and they can't get their star to do it because he's a movie star and he's been committing to even other probably multi-movie franchises. You're not going to get that guy right now. He's turning into a movie star. So,
also, Sony, they don't have the rights to do live action without Sony, and they can't put it on Disney Plus if it's Sony thing.
Well, that would be the main reason. I forgot about that. I knew that, but I forgot about that. Well, that sucks because that means that you'll never see an animated or a live action Spider-Man show by people that would probably do it decently. Because I don't trust that with Sony, even if they did it somewhere else. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, I'm with you, DJ. Are they gonna have a list?
Is it gonna
of
be
villains?
the Smallville thing where like all these villains that we didn't know about happened in that year? Or
are they gonna have? Yeah, are they gonna have a list of villains that they have just committed to? We'll never do them in movies, so you can have them in this cartoon show. Is that what's gonna be? And how much of that show is origin in the first place? It's called Spider-Man Freshman Year, but is he gonna turn into Spider-Man like 6 episodes in? Or, you know, like what exactly does that look like? I agree. A lot of people have been real negative on this, real critical of this, I should say, and I'm with them on it, where it's like, okay, really? So we haven't even had a reference to Uncle Ben really in those movies, and we haven't fleshed out exactly how this particular version becomes Peter Parker. So instead of just having a little bit of dialogue about it somewhere, since you guys, you know, are so terrified of ever showing the origin again, and I'm not saying I need to see it on screen again, it would just be nice to know to have the context that of how it happened for sure in this universe. I'm assuming pretty traditional, but how do I know? Nobody ever talks about it. So your answer is to overcompensate, make a whole cartoon show about it? Okay, if that's what it is, because I'm assuming that's what it is.
yeah, I mean,
We need an origin show?
yeah, best I can hope for is it's like an 8-episode. Yeah, it's weird. I actually really like his performance in Civil War. Is actually my favorite of Tom Holland's.
It's great.
So I really like him in that. I feel like he's much more of a scientist. He's like freaking out about like Winter Soldier's arm and like all the tech that Falcon's using. He's like, and we lose that. Like he's not that into science after that. He's just like Star Wars. But I don't know. I could like a 6-episode origin show where he's just like trying to stop petty crimes in his hoodie outfit before he gets his Civil War suit, and like it's classic Spider-Man stuff. But I don't know. It seems weird. I don't think they would do that. They were going to try to make it bigger than that.
It'd be cool if that's what it was, maybe. I'm with you. I mean, because the first thing I thought was if they do it right, it could be cool because it should just be the street level Spider-Man stuff we never got to see in those movies, right?
Exactly.
Like we know he's been Spider-Man for a while. That could be cool, and maybe we'll get lucky, and maybe that's what it is. But I have a hard time not jumping to the same place a lot of people are, which is, okay, so you're doing a whole origin show because you don't want to deal with that in the movies. Chewbacca's Lover says, why do all the cartoons have to be part of the MCU? We didn't do that back in the 2000s or the 90s. Well, we didn't have an MCU back then. There weren't, a lot of movies to connect these things to. We tried it with the MTV Spider-Man show. That was at least drawing real hard from Daredevil and the Spider-Man movies. But, or at least Daredevil. But yeah, I think the answer to that, Chewbacca's Lover, is it's not about being cartoons for kids. They're doing premises that if they could get away with it in live action, that's how they'd be making them. They want you to see these as legitimate in canon shows that they just can't. They just for logistical reasons have to animate. So far with What If, they haven't been good enough to be that. I don't think. I hope this is. And I'm with you. I hope that it's not the exact same animation style. Again, it's fine, but for a Spider-Man show like that, I would love something else. I don't know what exactly, but I would love, just for the sake of variety, I would love to see something else.
Yeah, I would like this to be its own thing.
I don't think we'll get that. I think it will look like those, but well, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. For me personally, I just hope it's not. I hope it's just an excuse to do a Spider-Man show, and it's just a good show. I don't need it to be super tied in, but it's probably what it's going to be.
Chewbacca's Lover again. I mean, we don't have to base them on the films and limit themselves. Well, yeah, you do if the point is adding more to that continuity. Like I said, I think both of those shows, those are premises that they would love to have made live action in the first place. That would be like if they did Loki and for whatever reason there was stuff in that show that they felt like they just couldn't do in live action, or they couldn't get all the actors they wanted or whatever, and they went, okay, I guess we're going to bite the bullet and still make the show, but in animation. So like if Loki came out and you were like, well, why does this have to be connected to the MCU? Well, the answer is they wanted to make a live action show, but they couldn't, so they did it like this. That's what's going on with these.
Yeah. And also that's cool. Stephen Murphy said it's based on Ditko's art style, they say.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's cool.
Just revived the 60s show. But no, yeah, and we also got to say they're starting to sell half of the reason for this. The reason why they're not putting their MCU shows out on Blu-ray. It's not just to beef up the MCU. It's to make sure that you have to be subscribed to Disney Plus for your entire life.
Yeah.
For all eternity.
Yeah, and I mean that's why the Star Wars shows aren't going to DVD or Blu-ray. And I'm assuming
they're selling these they're selling the streaming service on the MCU.
I'm assuming Monsters at Work won't go to DVD. I'm sure Jeff Goldblum's show, I don't know why anybody would buy that on disc, but I'm sure that's not going to disc.
Will Smith's show, he's getting a show now.
Oh, is he really? I didn't know
they
that.
Announced on Doomsday, whatever that was called.
That is cool if they're doing the Ditko art style. I mean, again, I'm not immediately going, oh, boo. I'm sure this will be horrible, or I hope it's horrible. It's just I hope the whole thing's not Origin.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. That could be cool.
All I wanted was a little discussion about it. I don't need a show about it. That's all I'm saying.
All he wanted was one girl, and you gave him two.
Exactly, Robert. What we're talking about my daughters, not polygamy or something.
Sorry. Hopefully, everyone in the audience knows that.
Oh man, maybe we are having After Dark tonight. I'm not sure. Robert Wild. I hope Marvel Zombies looks better than What If. That art style didn't work for me. I mean, nothing about that episode worked for me. I hated it with a burning passion, and I really love Marvel Zombies, and I want. If we're going to adapt it, I want it to at least tonally and a little bit character-wise to be anything connected to that book. That would be wonderful. And so I don't have a lot of faith in that TV show spinning off. Anyway, we should get back to Super Chats. How many more do we have, sir?
We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, okay. We're in good shape because there's still half an hour left on the clock if people want to stretch us out to 2 hours, so...
Yeah, let us know. All right. The novelty has worn off for people who've had it for things they've grown up with. This is about the 90s X-Men thing. Those younger than you, not so much. Usually only 90s or 80s stuff.
I guess I'm not fully understanding that comment.
He's saying that the novelty has worn off for people who've had it for things they've grown up with, but it's usually mostly 80s or 90s stuff. People younger than us haven't had as many revivals, so...
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
Novelty probably has off on them. But this is a 90s thing. But I guess that was just in the general topic that we were talking about. I guess he's saying if you're going to revive shows, revive stuff that's later, because we've done enough 90s and 80s stuff. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, we have... I hear what you're saying, and that makes sense in animation, but just with, like, television and movies at large, we have tried to do this quite a bit with more recent things as well. The Heroes revival was terrible and nobody liked it. We're trying, or at least not that I've talked to. Nobody seemed to care for that, or not very many. Dexter is getting a revival right now. I haven't watched any of that yet. I don't know what that's like, but I mean, yeah, we are trying to do it with some more recent things. And I mean, Young Justice wasn't when I was a kid. I mean, that's like, you know,
yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah. So I don't know, like when you say like novelty of people my age, I think more of the things that we've tried to straight up bring back have been with things that were kind of in the cartoon sphere, past my time, or like just as I was getting into college and stuff. Like a lot of things where I was an adult already, certainly. And I think the novelty for a lot of people, regardless of age, has worn off just because so many of these things, overall in general, have been attempted and just weren't great. And so people are like, oh, well, cool. Like, I'm finally getting this thing that I used to love coming back, but, like, I don't trust that it's necessarily going to be any good. And we also will very often do it with things that had okay endings or were on for a real good long time and were past their prime already. Like, Heroes was terrible for most of its run. Oh, let's make some more. X-Files had a awful ending and a really bad last couple of seasons. Oh, let's come back and make some more. Like, it'd be great if those things came back and, like, actually improved on the material, and what people hope for was stuff like that. I'm running away with myself. With stuff like that, people want to see these things come back and return to what they were early on when they were great so that they can kind of wash the bad taste out of their mouth. That has rarely happened. I mean, I can't think of examples off the top of my head of something that ended, that was really bad later on, and then comes back and goes, okay, we know what we did wrong. We're gonna return to form.
Yeah, that's what my wife is hoping for this Dexter show. She loves Dexter.
Boy, so do I, but like, don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath, Grace.
He left a comment.
We'll compare notes.
He left a comment in the chat. He said he was actually talking about the Spider-Man No Way Home at that point.
Oh, okay.
But same kind of thing, I think. So yeah, that's 2000. That's a little young. I mean, I was 10 when the first Spider-Man came out, so I was still pretty young.
Oh, see, but what I'm saying is, and yeah, like, this isn't going to be true for everybody, but the nostalgia of just crossovers has worn off on me in general. It's a thing we've just started doing quite a bit, and I don't think that has as much to do with how old the things are or how old I am. It's just for my money, was that AMC Comics, or Bob the Hun. For my money, Bob the Hun, it's when I was a kid, it was a thing that would have been a big deal because we never did it. And I mean in any kind of medium. Like, Disney Infinity and Lego Dimensions, kind of big deals for me because we never used to really do stuff like that. There's a reason that Super Smash Brothers is as popular as it is. We take a lot of properties that, Nintendo has ownership of or partnerships with, but that had never really been crossed before. And we put them all together, and these things from this thing can fight people from this other thing. It was a thing.
Now we have WB Smash Brothers. Did you see that?
That just got announced, and looks like the most generic thing. And it's free to play, and it should be.
It looks like it.
But anyway, it used to happen in video games to some degree. You'd get things like Marvel vs. Capcom. That was a big deal. And it used to happen in comics, but not really very many other media. And then, Turtles Forever comes along, and it's like, oh wow, we can cross like two versions of the same thing. And then now we're doing it in live action with these superhero movies. And we did it with kind of poorly, sometimes okay, but poorly in a lot of places with the CW Arrowverse. So I'm just saying that, like, it was a big novelty for me for a while because it was a thing that we never did, and now it seems to be a lot of how we sell things, starting with the shared universe concept, where it's like, oh, look, all these things that are in the same universe but weren't talking to each other are now in the same movie. Isn't that a big deal? Yeah, it was. And now everything is trying to do that, so it's not as exciting anymore. I mean, I would go as far as to say, like, yes, for the whole nostalgia thing with Spider-Man, it's a big deal for kids that grew up with those movies and get to see those characters come back in some way. I get that. But I've seen it done badly so many times, it's hard for me to get excited about it. And it's also just becoming kind of the thing we're doing now. Like, I'm just saying I'm not surprised by it anymore. And so it was a big novelty for me because we never did it. And now you're having all these kids that are growing up with it as just a thing we do. So, like, I think we're going to go to a place where it's not much of a novelty for them either.
Yeah, it's really weird. I can't imagine. Yeah,
Alex Barron, I think that's right. He says, what was Freddy vs. Jason the first big live-action crossover? Yeah, I mean, you had some stuff with Universal Monsters decades before that, but that's about it.
Yeah. Anyway, good question, Bob the Hunt. Sticking with Spider-Man, if we can. Mr. Abato, anyone want the Rhino back as well? The welder? Or I don't know if he's asking me or if he also wants the welder back. I can't. They've reached their 6. It seems like they have more than 6, so I don't know. But I would love Rhino back. I would love him doing that crazy stuff, but in an actual Rhino suit instead of the big giant ugly mech thing. Just put him in like a big classic Rhino suit.
But it has to be the mech thing, because then if they can't get Paul Giamatti back, then they can do the same thing that it looks like they might be doing with Sandman, where it's just he's a special effect.
That's true.
Now look, maybe that guy is going to be there with Sandman. I don't know, but they're just showing the big special effect, and I'm like, say it's going to be Goosebumps. They're not even going to cast some of these actors. Just. Let me finish real quick my conversation with Bob the Hun here. Maybe I'm off with the age thing, but not a lot of things I care about get brought back. Yeah, and I mean, that's perfectly fair. It's been attempted so many times with things I love. I'm in very much a, like fool me once kind of place with it. But like, also don't get me wrong. I've talked about this before, but like, yes, of course there is a part of me that can't help but have feelings about seeing Michael Keaton play Batman again. Of course. I have no trust whatsoever that script is any good. I hope to God that it is. Of course, when that trailer opens with Danny Elfman's score from '89, I'm feeling something about that. There's no way around it.
Interesting.
I'm not immune to this, but I don't. I'm not stoned, but I don't trust it. Because it's a way to get me to go see it and get my money, before it's very often actually creative choices. And I think there are lots of creative ways to do these things.
Yeah, I think that actually varies from person to person. Like, I personally can't think of, I'm sure there is something, but right now I can't think of something that would do that for me. Like, I don't want the things, like, for some reason, I don't know what it is. I'm gonna have to analyze myself. I don't know, I don't want the things that I love being brought back. Like, I really, really don't want Andrew Garfield in this at all. Like, I hope, even if he was asked, I hope he would say no, because I don't want that. It's just weird to me. I don't know. But
can I ask you this? How would you feel if tomorrow, obviously this would never happen, but insane totally desert island scenario. Let's say tomorrow they suddenly greenlight miraculously Amazing Spider-Man 3 and they bring Garfield back. How would you feel about that? Like,
I would not want it.
Why though? Because it was never finished.
Because 2 was so bad. I have a hard time.
So when 2 was bad, were you hoping they wouldn't greenlight a sequel?
I just didn't care.
I see.
This kind of went.
Okay.
This is something about
I was just wondering
like,
if you had a time thing with it. If it was kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the cartoon thing, where it's like, well, it's so many years later, like, it's not going to be what they were going to make. So what's the point? Like, I thought maybe that's what you'd say.
Well, exactly. It's the same thing. Like, I think I'm consistent with what I said at that. If they wanted to do, like, if they wanted to jump ahead and do an Andrew Garfield story in that universe, but it's older and has nothing to do with all that crappy Sinister Six stuff they were setting up in 2.
So, like, Logan, but with Andrew Garfield?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that, but, like, I don't like continuity, and I don't want you to be hamstrung by crappy second movie continuity. I have this problem with TV shows a lot. Like, if a show is like Daredevil, really, really, really amazing first season, season 2 kind of dipped for me, and then Defenders was horrendous with that character. So I still haven't gone back to season 3, even though I've heard it's great. So, like, I don't know what it is, but I have where once it goes down, I can't pick and choose, like, what I like. It's confusing.
No, I mean, I don't have that as much as you do, but I can empathize to some degree. I mean, I can kind of see why you have that.
Yeah.
Bob the Hunt, I don't want to see them brought back forever. I just want to see those characters one more time. And DJ is saying, like, you don't have that kind of thing at all.
Yeah, but I think it obviously a lot of people do. I'm not saying that I'm right or anything. I'm just
sure. The one more time thing is interesting. I mean, I feel like I can't say that until I see how it's handled. You know? Like, it's exciting that these actors will get to play these characters again if the material is good. If we're not saddled with tripe. Because, I mean, I'm not saying that bad decades later sequel things necessarily ruin what came before, but I gotta tell you guys, this is just how I feel. I don't like this about myself, and I'm the kind of person that kind of preaches against the whole, like, you ruined my childhood kind of idea. Like, you know, anything that comes out now that's dealing with the characters, even continuity that you had when you were younger, yeah, it's pretty easy to write off. You know, you can just say it didn't happen. But man, I would be disingenuous if I were to say that I am as excited about even going back to old Star Trek as I used to be with what has happened with that franchise. Like, I don't not care about it anymore. I'm not ready to sell my whole collection. I still, you know, go back and look at Star Trek, but, like, I'm not as enthusiastic about Star Trek on the whole anymore, just because that stuff was so bad, but also it's there and it's still being made, and there's a lot of it, and it's kind of in my face, and, like, it makes me kind of less excited for it. And so, you know, maybe that's part of why I don't immediately jump up and down when, you know, something that I love gets brought back, because my biggest love got brought back, and it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Picard is...
That's so sad.
Yeah, Jean-Luc Picard, not the TV show. Jean-Luc Picard is my favorite character in fiction. Like, this bears repeating. And the Picard TV show about broke me. Like, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen in anything, and it's my favorite character in anything. And so, yeah, I'm more than trepidatious now, you know, when this kind of thing happens.
Yeah, because you almost wish you hadn't even watched it and just been blissfully unaware.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, when you say, you know, I want to see this character one more time, I would have loved to have seen Patrick Stewart come back and play Picard one more time in an affectionate piece that understood and had real reverence for the material, not in a thing where the people making it dislike and don't understand and don't care about science fiction enough to have these words come out of Picard's mouth himself. I don't like science fiction. I just don't get it. That's in that show. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't. If I used to have that, I don't as much anymore. Like I'd love to see these. You know. So I need to see. Back to what I was talking about in the first place. I just need to see what the project is before I can say that. Like, Logan, absolutely. You know, thank God I got to see You know, it's weird. It's Patrick Stewart again. Thank God I got to see him play Professor X one more time. Professor X is also one of my favorite characters in things, and I love the first two X-Men movies, and you know, Days of Future Past and stuff, of course. And big deal that was Wolverine's, like, you know, Hugh Jackman's going out movie. Like, they could have left it where it was, and it would have been fine. But getting to see him do it one more time, and it was spectacular, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so it's a 50-50 shot. You can get a Logan, you can get a Picard.
But that wasn't, and unfortunately, it's not 50-50, because how many Logans are there? You know, there aren't a lot of those. And
well, Picard was also trying to be Logan, so there's the problem there.
Really, really poorly handled with that as well. But yeah, like, if you, I don't know, if somehow I knew for sure that it was that it was going to be worth it, but it's just when the whole point is just fan service. Like, Logan didn't feel that way at all. There's a lot of gimmicky crap that movie could have pulled that it didn't pull. You know, just for the sake of fan service. It didn't feel like that at all.
Yeah.
It has almost no returning characters in it, except for those two guys. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's I'm really sad now. Every time Cap talks about Star Trek, it gets real sad in here.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to be a downer.
Nothing
but...
you say. It's just I feel bad that your franchises dropped you. All right, Chewbacca's Lover. I don't expect it to be great. Just possible that I might enjoy it on some level. Really don't like this franchise and the direction it went. And I'm assuming he's talking about the Spider-Man franchise in the MCU.
Yeah, and probably not X-Men at this point. That makes me wonder, now that you say it like that, how much of this is Sony and MCU trying to throw a bone at Raimi fans that keep calling their Spider-Man Iron Boy? How much of it is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no way of knowing how prevalent that is. I know we hear it about a lot on YouTube, but I don't know if they're. I don't know if it. I don't know how big that goes.
And I mean, if it doesn't
looking
seem to
for
be
YouTube
affecting their
comments.
bottom line, what do they care really? Because I don't know that that's really affected the box office.
Thank you, Stephen Murphy. After I said it was super sad, he said, "DJ, promote your channel. That's always positive." Thank you, Stephen Murphy. I didn't know you were a fan. We just passed 200 subscribers, by the way.
Hey,
so thank you guys so much for the guys who have subscribed over to the Welder channel. It's been a lot of fun, but I won't talk about that too much.
If you're sick of all this heavy crap and you just want to listen to a guy talking about stuff he owns, go look at that channel, because it'll be much more uplifting than what this has turned into. I just mean this video.
Yeah, I just posted a video this morning, a Blu-ray update that me and Connor did, a big Blu-ray update, stuff we bought in September and October. That was like 26 movies from 26 Blu-rays from each of us. And then we're going to do a video this weekend about a Karel Zaman movie, Journey to the Beginning of Time. We're going to discuss that movie because it's a really cool movie.
Dagon Spear. And one day you find yourself wishing the show you loved never existed, so you'd be spared your pain. That's a great Batman Begins reference. Thanks so much for that. And I'm shedding it. And it's really funny too, because somebody else earlier did the whole Dark Knight. You either live long enough to see your to
self become a multiverse.
Yeah, exactly. That whole thing. And it's just really funny that we both went to Nolan Batman places.
Oh, I will do more commentaries on the channel.
You die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. I have said that. I put a post like that out a couple months ago on Facebook about TV shows, where you either die a great show, or you either get canceled, or you live, or you live long enough to see yourself be like the worst thing on television. Cinematographic, I've been calling this Spider-Man Iron Boy. That doesn't make me a Raimi fan. A, the Raimi trilogy hasn't aged well, and B, it's very condescending. Okay, that's interesting. I guess I said it like that, just saying that, like, a lot of the people that I've heard say that it seems that's more the Spider-Man they want, is what they see as the more traditional old school Stan Lee Spider-Man, which is more of what Raimi gave us. So it makes sense that there would be people that are of that opinion that don't necessarily love the Raimi movies. That makes sense. I didn't mean to lump everybody in a box when I said that, but I just meant when I said Raimi fan, I guess I just mean more something closer to classic Spider-Man that doesn't need an MCU mentor in every movie. Because I also sympathize with people that say that. I mean, I haven't felt that as strongly. I always thought the Iron Boy thing was maybe going a tad too far, but I get why people say that, because it's like, why does he have to have all that tech? We want to see street-level Spider-Man that is not just good at technology, but resourceful, and all of that. And it was exciting in that first movie when he lost that technology. And then now he's had it ever since. I mean, honestly, I think the Iron Boy complaint is totally fair post Infinity War, but it wasn't in the first place. Like, it was working fine there. You just shouldn't have given it back. And he doesn't take the suit back. He doesn't take the iron suit at the end of that movie. And then forevermore, he's got one.
He immediately gets it. I can't believe it's in this movie too. He made such a cool suit at the end of the last one. The only good thing from that movie. And now he's back in the iron suit. And also, like you just said, the formula that we have to have one MCU character in every one is becoming so way too obvious at this point. Like, it's literally, it's Iron Boy, it's Fury Boy, and now it's Strange Boy.
Yeah. And with Fury Boy, it wasn't even Fury.
Talos Boy.
It was Talos Boy. And I'm gonna make it a crime to ever put those words together on this channel ever again. Okay, we got 12 minutes left if we cap off at 2 hours. Do we have more super chats at the moment?
Yes, we have 4.
Well, let's do them.
5.
Fantastic 5.
6.
6.
Sorry, I keep scrolling. Josh Galisano, not a super chat, but you are very constructive. It is a super chat.
It is a super chat.
It's $5.
Not a question, I guess.
Yeah, it's probably not a question. Not a super chat, but you are very constructive and respectful about this stuff. We are different people and have different tastes. Well, thanks, Josh.
Thanks,
That's
I
awesome.
appreciate it.
That's what we try to be. I think we're doing a good job of that.
That's all I'm ever trying to say when I say that. Yeah, I mean, I can be
jokes.
blunt, and I'm critical, and that's the point of this channel, man. But but I don't want anybody to feel like I'm trying to like wreck their fun. I also understand that it's easy to accidentally do that. Like I felt that way before too. I'm not saying necessarily like, I'm certainly not saying don't have the feelings you have about things. I would never say that. But I've had that before too, where like somebody that I respected, that I liked a lot. I don't mean even on YouTube. I mean like friends or family. Say Eric. Like I go see a thing with Eric, and he, absolutely, or like I absolutely love it. I have a personal experience with it. I have like a life-changing experience,
spiritual
experience, and Eric does not, and he's like, it was fine, or I didn't really care for that. Yeah, that can be a little bit crushing to some degree, because you think you shared a thing with a person, and then it turns out that you didn't. But was he wrong? Should he pretend like he felt differently, or is there something wrong with him that he didn't have the experience that I had with it? I've had people before, when I thought something was just god awful that they really enjoyed, saying you're being hyperbolic. My opinion is hyperbolic? I don't understand that. I mean, it is possible to really overblow a thing, where just for the sake of, I don't know, like viewers or people paying attention to you on the internet or something, you act like something is way worse than you clearly thought it was. But if you're actually clearly, legitimately, passionately unhappy with something, and somebody goes, well, I liked it, so that makes you hyperbolic, that's not fair. It's not.
Yeah. What's up next? From Smarty Pants.
Stephen Murphy. Poor Eric guy isn't here to defend himself anymore. Well, we've had that the other way. He's had spiritual experiences with things that I didn't understand why the hell he cared. Like,
but thanks for the kind words, Josh. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
That's what we try to be. We try to have fun on here, but we try to be thoughtful. That's the main thing. Smarty Pants tutoring, $10.
Open-minded, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing as trying not to have any opinions at all so you don't offend people. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, just let the movie wash over you in the way it's meant to, and not go in with preconceived notions. Smarty Pants tutoring. I rewatched the first two Blade films that I feel have more personality than most of the MCU. Do you think they hold up, and do you think those kinds of flicks are possibly under the Disney brand?
Well, it's. I mean, I think anything is possible. Eternals was not what I was expecting it to be, and was very much its own thing, and didn't feel too of the MCU stable or house style or whatever. There's also the worry that we'll never get anything like that again, because it didn't do quite the numbers that they were hoping it would, and it's been polarizing. So you got to take this with a grain of salt. But if that is possible, then I think almost anything is. You'll never get, and I know this wasn't exactly your question, there are things you'll never see under the MCU banner. You'll never see anything as rough and tumble and dark and gritty as the Daredevil Netflix show. It just won't happen. I wouldn't think. I'll be shocked if something like that is ever allowed to be made on Disney Plus or especially hearing how apparently micromanaged a lot of directors have been with just Disney projects in general, with MCU and Star Wars and stuff. I would be surprised if something like that was possible. So could you have something with the kind of like style and panache of the Blade movies? Maybe. I'm not holding my breath, but maybe.
All right, next one is from. I really need to see. I've never seen the Blade movies. I really want to see the second one because I love Guillermo del Toro. Goofster123. I really don't want to read this if it's true, but I have to. It's my job. Apropos of nothing. Thoughts on Barry Keoghan, Druig in Eternals, apparently outed as Joker in The Batman.
Oh, wow. I have no opinion on that until I see that movie.
Yeah. We'll see. If he is, I doubt he's barely in it at all. It's just like because there's a lot of villains in that movie.
To be fair, I never want to cop out and say, well, I don't have an opinion, so let's move on. I mean, you left the super chat, so I'll talk about it for a second. I certainly appreciate that. As far as that particular actor, I honestly need to go back and look. That was a list of 10 protagonists, and I remember which guy that is. So if that's true, I don't know how I feel about the casting yet. I've seen that movie once, and I think that's the only thing I've seen that guy in. As far as I can recall right now. But anyway, just as far as the notion of Joker being in that movie, I don't have a problem with it because it's a, established. I mean, we haven't seen the world yet, but it will be an established Batman world where he's been operating for apparently a year. It's supposed to be like Batman Year 2, apparently. And what excites me about the possibility of Joker being in that movie, DJ, if that ends up being true, is if we're finding out about it this late and it's not supposed to be, and it's a leak and we weren't even supposed to know about it yet, and maybe we weren't even supposed to know about it till we get to the movie, my assumption would be then that is not a huge part of that movie, and we might finally get a Batman movie where Joker is just in the background, or it's just a cameo thing, or he's in a couple of scenes, and maybe we'll do things with him later on, but even more so than just a playing card at the end of Begins. Like, yeah, you get to see him, he'll do a couple of things, but like he does in a lot of, like, animated Batman movies, direct-to-video, that aren't really about him. The main thing that excites me about that, if it ends up being true, is that is more confirmation that we might be going to Arkham Asylum, and that some portion of that movie takes place there. I would love introducing Joker in a Batman movie just in the asylum. You do this kind of haunted house thing where Batman's having to walk through the asylum, and he had maybe one or two adventures with the Joker, and he put him there, and he goes up to his cell, and they have an exchange, and that's all you see of him in the movie. That would be awesome. I would love that. So I'm sure there will be some people that will go, God, why does Joker have to be in every Batman movie? We have to keep reinventing this character. But I would love for this to feel like a Batman world in comics that I just haven't read yet, where a lot of this stuff is just already there. And you'd be making a big statement if your Joker was just already there. That would be so cool. And of course, we sort of kind of did that with Suicide Squad, but we all know how that turned out for a lot of people. Where, that's a lot of, like, history and baggage and stuff. But the idea of a Joker that, like, Batman's only dealt with once or twice, that would be so freaking cool. So now I'm hoping that he's in that movie. But only if it's the way I'm talking about it or something similar to that. That would be great.
John Ty, thoughts on the She-Hulk and Moon Knight teasers? I did not watch those.
Would you believe I forgot all about those? I've not looked at them yet. Yeah, I knew there was a thing for She-Hulk. I forgot there was a teaser for and because I think you're supposed to see the costume with the Moon Knight one.
Oh, cool.
On the day those things dropped, I had time to look at some of it, and then I didn't get around to the rest of it, and I forgot those things dropped. I've not looked at them, so I will try to do that before next time. Maybe we can revisit it.
Yeah. Thomas Lowe 86.
Apparently, somebody said the Ace Chemicals logo was on the Batman. Okay, the person was Crafton Logan. Change your name. I'm just kidding. The Ace Chemicals logo was on the Batman set. That's exciting. That is cool. I'm getting Blue Dragon 5 says barely teasers. Okay, that's not surprising. That happens a lot when they drop a bunch of stuff at once, where basically you'll just get a logo, and then it'll be like 2024 or whatever, where it's like, we're just letting you know that we're kind of working on this thing.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I hope that's what a teaser should be. And the teasers are trailers now, and trailers are like behind the scenes 4-minute
or like the movie. I gotta say, that Spider-Man trailer revealed more plot stuff than Marvel almost ever does. Oh, that's not surprising though, because Sony's
Sony.
Yeah, that's actually real reeled in for Sony, given those like 5.5-minute Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailers that gave you the last shot of the movie. I'll never stop making fun of that. Like, you think I'm gonna let them live that down? Not gonna happen. I'm not gonna let them live that down any more than I'm gonna let my son Jason live down the time a couple days ago where he tried to say that words that like names that people have are longer some of them, even if they have the same letter count, because some letters are larger than other letters. I'll never let him live that down. It was an amazing statement. He was like, but Mom, your previous name before you got married, Biltman, was not as long of, it was a longer name than Williamson because it had M's and N's in it, and those are larger letters. He's never living that down.
Oh man.
He'll be 40, and I will still be making fun of him for that.
Thomas Lowe 86. Makes no sense for them to continue X-Men stories decades after the ending. So he agrees with you.
Some of that has got to be producers just wanting to kind of relive their glory days where they just really miss working on a particular thing, and it's never going to be exactly like it was. And like I said earlier, there are ways to potentially do that well. But if those guys want to stay in animation and make more X-Men stuff, I just wish they'd do a different show.
John Tice says he likes the ending teaser for Moon Knight. It's just him beating a person in a rundown restroom.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
I'm just saying that's cool because we might be getting something closer to the Netflix Daredevil stuff than I thought was possible. So.
Yeah.
It's the only scene like that in the entire show. The rest of it is people saying things like Scooby-Doo that crap.
I'm sad I had to hear that for the first time live on air tonight.
Stephen Murphy, the Spider-Man not being revealed could have been a fight between studios. Like, Sony maybe wants to advertise the Spider-Man, but Marvel Studios wants to keep that secret. If we're talking about the other actors that played Spider-Mans in previous movies, but again, that means Tom Holland is lying. Or wasn't allowed to know that they shot things with those actors.
Yeah.
I want that to be the case. I want that to be what it is so bad.
Last super chat I've got from Bob the Hun. MTV Spider-Man was originally supposed to be an adaptation of Ultimate Spider-Man comic. Changed at the last minute. Bendis was a producer on the show.
I forgot about that. He was, yeah. Yeah, and that would have been right around the same time that book was gaining a lot of traction. That would have been great. And that show's not bad. I haven't watched it in a long time.
Yeah, I would not have wanted... I love Ultimate Spider-Man. It's like my favorite run of comics, but I wouldn't have wanted it to be in that because it would have definitely been in that 3D animated, early 2000s 3D animated style, cool. And that would have been weird.
Yeah. Although, no, I say that was when it was getting traction. Sorry, that was like 03, 04, wasn't it? So that we had already been going for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm. I could have totally seen them doing that too, because if you look at the first like 5 issues of that Ultimate Spider-Man run, the cover art looks nothing like what's inside. It looks like it's much more 3D realistic rendering. I don't know if you remember what those looked like, but it's very weird.
And the animation got a little better as the show went along. You could tell that...
Well, I was talking about the Ultimate Spider-Man issues.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Those covers looked kind of more 3D. They were trying to go
2000. I was reading comments. I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I have a lot of things I have to keep track of at the same time. Yeah. I don't try to ignore DJ. It just happens on accident. Anyway, yeah, I don't... I would think that they wouldn't try to render exactly what those books looked like in 3D anime. I would hope not.
That would have been weird.
But yeah, it's probably for the best that that's not the way they went, because I don't think just because that was based on Ultimate would mean that it would get any more episodes. Like, that was only on for a year. If you're adapting Ultimate, it would need to be on for several years. Unless it was a lot less decompressed. Like, a lot. We're going to do a whole year of books in one episode.
Yeah, because that's a really short show. It was like...
Yeah, 12 episodes.
12 episodes, yeah.
12, 13. Yeah, I've never done anything on that. We might do a marathon at some point. That'd be a thing we could easily do in, like, a couple sessions, watch the whole thing.
That'd be cool. I'd be interested to go back to that. That'd be a fun watch party.
I've been wanting to do more of those watch parties. We did that 90s Spider-Man one, and some folks showed up for that, and that did really well. And those are fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do a Batman animated series one in the not-too-distant future. Somebody requested that. So that will happen. And I might let some of you guys pick some episodes for that, because we've already picked 2 or 3, but maybe we'll do 5 or 6 like we did with Animated Spider-Man. But we can jump around more because there's not obviously as many multi-parters. So, okay, anything else we need to tackle before we close up shop here, DJ?
That's all I got. Bob the Hun closing the show. Thanks for all the super chats tonight, Bob the Hun.
Yeah.
And everybody. You
And
guys are all
thanks
great.
to everybody for being here and for all of the interaction. Appreciate you guys. We will see you again next Thursday with another one. We will have an After Dark that night. And on, like I said, over the weekend, Sunday into Monday, I will have a How We Felt About with Connor on Ghostbusters Afterlife. So look forward to that. I certainly am. I hope that's great. I'm pretty jazzed to see it. And what else is going on? I put up a Superhero Rewind today on the first season of the original 87 Ninja Turtles cartoon. Took me longer to get that up than I meant it to, because I was so busy last week and over the weekend, so I'm behind on my Rewind schedule. I don't know if I'll have one up for you next week. I do have one shot, but it's just editing time is ridiculous right now. So I will try to, like I said, I'm trying to get at least 2 of those up a month, and I've been sticking to that. Okay, I'd love to do it more often than that, but it's been kind of difficult. But anyway, and then tomorrow night I'm gonna do a special Captain Logan show type show with Austin. We're going to do a longer lead-in topic probably, but we'll take some questions from you guys if some folks show up for that on anything you want to talk about. If that topic doesn't take up the whole hour, we're probably just going to shoot for an hour. He and I have some other videos to make as well. But we're going to be reviewing the new, this won't be live, but we're going to be reviewing the new cut of Rocky IV. As well as a request this week. So we have some other stuff to shoot. Yeah, I saw that the other night. That'll be fun to talk about. And the topic for tomorrow night is going to be about YouTube content and internet content in general, and what is fair to consider lazy content. This is a thing I keep hearing thrown around all the time, where folks will say things like, podcasts aren't real content, it's lazy content. You just sit in front of a microphone and you talk. Should that be considered really even content? Or is it just, like spewing into the wind and hoping somebody throws money at you, which is certainly a criticism that will be interesting to respond to, because lately I've more or less been doing that. And I'm not doing written content right now at all, and I'm not doing this to respond to any particular criticisms I'm getting, because that's not a thing that I've seen really anybody on our channel say to me, but it's just a thing I keep seeing thrown around a lot and with other stuff, and I'm curious to explore it. What kind of effort should be expected to go into certain kinds of videos, and how much does the intent matter, versus expectation and that kind of thing. So Austin and I are gonna talk about that tomorrow night live. I think that'll be enjoyable, and like I said, we'll do some Q&A and stuff too. So thanks a bunch for being here, folks, and we'll probably talk about ASMR and stuff like that.
Good stuff.
Should that be considered content? But yeah, just kind of, how much is it, okay if people just come to the table off the cuff without knowing too much of what they're going to talk about, that kind of thing. So we'll see you again tomorrow night, hopefully. Pop in if you're so inclined. That'll be me and Austin. And DJ, if you end up having nothing better to do and you'd like to pop in, obviously you're welcome as well, if you want to help us mod and chat with us and stuff.
Yeah, well, you just wet my palate with that. I have lots of thoughts about that topic, but I don't know. I might let you guys tackle it, but that's cool. That's really cool. I'm definitely gonna tune in and listen.
I just didn't want you to feel left out.
Oh well, never. No, I don't know how to feel left out. I'm basically a hermit. So.
Oh, well, that's good to know. That's good. I pick friends based on whether or not they have feelings.
Yes. Well, we all know Dan has no feelings.
Exactly. Yeah, and you reminded me a little bit of a Dan, which is why you have this job.
Well, high praise. It's a really good compliment to be kind of a Dan.
He's kind of a Dan. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you again next time. I was Captain Logan. This was DJ Martinez. Good night, folks.
Me. See ya.
Later, everybody.